All right. Hello, everybody. We are officially live on Facebook. And good evening, everybody. Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Tamika Walker Kelly, your favorite music teacher and the president of the North Carolina Association of Educators. And this is Tuesdays with Tamika. Welcome to our first official premiere episode hosted right here on the NCAE Facebook page. And you can also find us streaming live on the NCAE YouTube page. And I am so excited for our first official fancy episode, is what I've been calling it. And I am joined by Yvonne Lewis Holley, NCAE Endorsed Candidate for Lieutenant Governor. So everybody, I want you to help me welcome Yvonne to Tuesdays with Tamika. So I'm here, Yvonne.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me be here with you. I love NCAE and I love our teachers. Periodically, you might hear a dog barking because he's right here at my feet. And so just understand when you're Zooming from home, you get the home sounds.
That is so true. I've tried to also ask my fourth grader friend, my child, to be sure to keep the door locked because we are live. And of course, we Zoom all day. And so I'm so glad, Yvonne, that you are here today. Because of your long history with North Carolina and with public education with NCAE. And so many of our members know that you have been serving in the North Carolina House of Representatives since 2012. And in that role, you've been an outspoken advocate for public education. But many of our members do not know, are not aware of your deep roots in North Carolina and your family's history of racial desegregation here in Raleigh. So before we talk a little bit about your race for Lieutenant Governor, which we are so excited that you are running for, can you share a little bit about your background in North Carolina?
Yes, I can. I am a Raleigh native, North Carolina born and bred, North Carolina excited. Glad to be here. I am a student of the Raleigh Public Schools before they merged with Wake County. They didn't merge with Wake County Public Schools until after I graduated from high school. I was amongst the first students, the first wave of students, not in the first class, but the first kind of wave of students that integrated the schools here. I went to Enloe High School in the 7th. And remember when it was, you wouldn't know when it went from 7 to 12, but they were building Aycock Junior High School at the time. So the middle school was being built at the time. But my first year was at Enloe in the 7th grade. I went on to Aycock and then back to Enloe and graduated from Enloe High School. Went on to Howard University. Bison, very excited about the fact that our vice presidential nominee is also a Howard grad, and I'm a Howard grad. To have us at the number 2 spot in the country and the number 2 spot here in North Carolina just gets me real excited, And then I spent about 16 years in D.C., and then I moved back to North Carolina, where I really started to get involved in the community. I'm a retired state employee where I spent 25 years in the Division of Purchase and Contracts under the Department of Administration, buying predominantly scientific and medical equipment and service contracts. Upon my retirement, I was looking to expand my community involvement when they invented this newly created district, or that they were using to double bunk some other people. And I decided, okay, this is a way that I can give. So I ran for the House in 2012, and I won. So I'm in my 8th year, ending up my 8th year, my 4th term in the North Carolina General Assembly. And I have loved NCAE and our teachers and Red for Ed and all of the wonderful things that you're doing. I apologize for some of my colleagues not treating educators and teachers very well. It is my goal to, if I don't do anything, first we bring back respectability to the craft of teaching, to the profession, and to recognize your value. In fact, I think during COVID, a lot of parents right now are saying, "Oh, I'm glad I'm not a teacher," and they're going to respect you a lot more when you get back into the classroom.
Oh, thank you.
Now, you want to know a little bit about me? Okay, now I was raised in a community of civil rights leaders. I was very fortunate. No, I was blessed. I was blessed to grow up across the street from the first African American mayor, Clarence Leitner. I lived next door to chair of the former chair of the county commissioner, Harold Webb. One of my mentors was Harriet Webster, who was on the Wake County School Board for quite a while. And I've had the honor and the privilege to work with people like Representative Rosa Gill, who also used to chair, and Keith Sutton, and others who just been such strong people in education. Upon my integrating the school system, and like I said, going from 7th to the 12th grade in a predominantly white environment, I decided to try and see what Howard University, which was my only choice of schools that I wanted to go to. And I attended Howard for between 70 and 74. So I'm a child of the civil rights era who understands the struggles of a lot of things that I fought for back then still are coming back or are coming to a head again now. And the difference is that we never vilified our educational system and our teachers. And I just want to fix that wrong.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and your work that you have been doing before you came to the General Assembly and after. And shout out, right, showing your HBCU some love, because we love us some HBCUs around here. So showing the Howard Bison some love. That is awesome. And then of course your work for doing racial and social justice for long before it was a buzz term or before everybody did it, but your work in doing that. And so that is amazing to hear. So I want to ask you, if you are elected Lieutenant Governor in November, you will be making another milestone as the first African American elected to the position of Lieutenant Governor. And you will be the first African American woman, might I add, Black girl magic. So can you talk a little bit about how important you think that could be for the state of North Carolina? And can you help people understand why is the position of Lieutenant Governor so important?
Well, I'm excited about it, but it's not necessarily, I didn't run to be the first Black Lieutenant Governor. I ran to be Lieutenant Governor because I have a lot of skills and things that I think I offer. Now, my being Black has afforded me extra to bring to the table. I have a sense of community and some things and some experiences that have not been represented before on that high level of government. And I think that I can bring that to the table as well. The lieutenant governor's job was stripped of his power, a lot of his power some years ago. As you know, North Carolina is a purple state. So where we've had a Republican governor and a Democratic lieutenant governor, we've had a Democratic governor, which we currently have in fabulous Governor Roy Cooper, and a Republican lieutenant governor. So it's been vice versa for a number of years, and that's one of the reasons why they're afraid to give that power back to the position. So the position is what you make it. And our current lieutenant governor, who is now running for governor, chose to spend his time and energy on implementing a voucher system and draining our public educational system of its funds and of its reputation, and to me, just to dismantle try to privatize education in North Carolina. Well, I believe in public education. I'm a product of the strong public education experience that I've had. And part of my plan, as it has three main jobs. Let me get into that. Three main jobs. The first part of that main job is to preside over the Senate. And this year in particular, it looks like we're going to have a 25-25, even Steven on both sides. If that happens, it's the lieutenant governor who breaks that tie. And you want a Democrat in that spot. And even if that doesn't happen and you have one more of one side or the other, there's usually people out sick, then it's the lieutenant governor who will be casting some very important votes in North Carolina. So that's a very important part. You will also get to control the dialogue of what's being said. So many times in the House, before the Democrats could speak or before I would get up and want to say something, they would cut the debate off because they didn't want people to hear what we were voting against or what was the full issue, and they were trying to push something through and didn't want all the negatives to come out. Well, I'm fair and equitable. I've worked across the aisle. I do not vilify the person. It's my job to educate them and change their ideology where I can. So I will be fair and just in letting the dialogue happen on the Senate side. The other part of this job is the part that you will love is that this position will sit on the State Board of Education. I will try to make sure that I hold the superintendent accountable. And that's K through 12. The quality of the education we have, I will push to try to enhance it to make sure that every child gets an education. The other piece is you'll sit on the State Board of Community Colleges. Well, what is that? That's workforce development. So I could take you from K all the way through workforce development and try to see if we can have some continuity there throughout the educational system that allows the student that may not want to go to a four-year college to have that opportunity to work its way through the system and come out a viable, integral part of North Carolina with job skills that are pertinent to the state. So that's the big part of it. But because a lot of the things were taken away, there's this chunk over there that, like I said, Lieutenant Governor Forrest chose to push voucher system and dismantle the education with. Well, I have a program called Ally. Right now in my district, and you as educators are very much aware of this, I have almost 3,000 school-age children living in hotels. And it's school social workers and teachers who are keeping these families together and making sure that they get some of their needs met. And this is because these are working moms and working dads, but there's no available housing. You know, I've also worked in the general city. One of my biggest successes has been trying to educate my colleagues on food deserts and getting money in the budget for food insecurity and getting nutrient-rich foods in communities that historically have been lacking. Okay. So that's a big part of what I've also done. But what I learned is that I could feed you, but if you don't know where your head is going to be that night, you know, you're still unstable. Or if we house you and you haven't had anything to eat, how's that child going to learn? How's that mom going to go to work and be really effective on her job if she doesn't know where they're going to lay their head that night? So it's a number of things that are there, and that there is no state agency that deals with housing. There is no state agency that deals with food. The food system passes through DHHS because it's federal money. But North Carolina needs to begin to address some of these issues themselves. So I came up with a program called Ally, which is an affordable living initiative, which is going to bring together public, private, rural, urban, Democrat, Republicans, nonprofits, and governmental entities. And let's do an assessment of what we have in this state. Because something that may be done in Asheville, somebody in Halifax County may be able to implement the same thing. So there may be some low-hanging fruit by bringing people together and doing an assessment of what we have and seeing what we already have on the table. But by working together in a holistic approach to our families. Now, because we've been in COVID, it has become even more brought to the attention that even more families now are vulnerable. People who weren't vulnerable before are vulnerable because they've lost their jobs. Just because you have a big car and a big house, you lose your job and no savings, you too are looking for ways to pay your rent, you too, or your mortgage. You too are looking for ways to get some nutrient rich foods in your communities. So, the second part of that is affordable health and food security. So, we got affordable housing, affordable health and food security. The third part, I know educators will understand. That's that being paid what you are worth. Okay, it used to be the minimum wage used to support one person.
Mhm.
That $7.50 an hour will hardly buy you lunch in Raleigh now. You have to work an hour and you can't even buy a decent lunch for that 7.50. We have a problem. And so many families are being asked to live off that salary, or parents that are having to work two jobs to maybe get to $15 an hour, and then that takes them away from their children. So living wages are just critical. Also in that piece is living wages, it's job security, getting new jobs and job training, workforce development. That's what that piece is when we're talking about community colleges, getting the jobs and the job training to the people who need it for the industries that are here in North Carolina. The last piece is transportation, because if you can't get to work, you can't work.
That's
And
true.
you all know that when there's something going on at the school and the teacher wants you to come to the school and you don't have a car or transportation and you have to ride 2 and 3 buses and transfer just to get there to have a meeting with the teachers, and it can be difficult. Well, the same is true for a job. So we have to look at creative ways and think outside the box as how we can provide transportation to people to allow them to work. So this ally program has become even more present because of the COVID, and more families have fallen through these cracks. Yes, am I for education 100%? That's a big issue on its own that I will continue to do battle for. Another one is Medicaid expansion. That's a big issue for both of those issues for the past 8 years. As a gladiator, that's what I like to call myself. In the North Carolina General Assembly, I've been fighting for and will continue to do so. But we need to stabilize some of our families a little bit better so that when they go to school, that our children can learn.
I am so glad that you mentioned the holistic approach of how we take care of our school children and their families, because that is something that we have been advocating for here at NCAE for a very long time, particularly when you mentioned the school educators who are working with the school social workers and making sure that students' needs are taken care of. Just last week, for our viewers who did not know, we were at the General Assembly asking for them to use a lot of the COVID relief money and all of the different money that they have available, to make sure. One of the things that we were asking for is making sure that we could feed and house our children, because nobody should have to worry about food or housing, especially now during the pandemic. So that is definitely one of the things that resonates with us and our members, and one of the things that we've been championing. And I really also appreciate you breaking down the role of the lieutenant governor, particularly how that role sits on the state school board of education, because not a lot of people know that. And so your advocacy around public education will serve us very well to be an advocate on that state board as well, because we have seen other people do other things with that role, but we really need a champion for public education on the state board of ed to work with those leaders as well. So I appreciate you sharing that. And so we have a few more minutes left, and we all know that election 2020 is a huge deal, and I know it's even bigger for you as a candidate. But I want to ask you, what is your voting plan? It is probably one of the most important questions that I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask it every guest that comes on Tuesdays with Tamika. So what is your voting plan?
Well, I plan on voting in person in early vote. I want to go down. As a child of the civil rights era, whose parents and others fought for that right to vote. I want to physically go down and cast that vote. And I want everybody to know that every effort is being made to make you safe when you go to the poll and vote. There are people who are going to be providing masks, hand sanitizer. I had someone ask me the other day, what about pencils? Can we give them pencils? But I assure you that the pencils will be cleaned between everybody's use, and social distancing will be respected. There are people now. I talked to my individual mailman, and I talked about the people who are trying to do the mail-in ballots, and he told me that he and his workers in North Carolina were committed to make sure that those ballots got there and got there in time, that they are making personal commitments. So I feel safe and secure about those who may be unable to physically go down there doing early vote. Then there's also voting on election day. But I'm going to do early vote because I'm going to go to a precinct almost every day somewhere in the state and try to encourage people and thank them for getting out to vote. But there is one thing I want to go back to something, and I want to let teachers know how much they are appreciated. And we ask teachers to do so much more than teach. We're asking you to be social workers, counselors. We're asking you to feed us and our children. We're asking you in many cases to be parents and to look out for just the general overall well-being other than concentrating on actually educating the children. And I want you to know that has not gone unnoticed with me. And it will be some things to try to get you support in the schools that you need. Social workers, counselors, nurses, and support staff to help when children are in a crisis so you can focus your energy on the educational piece, which you so richly deserve. I mean, they're even asking some teachers now, they want you to put teachers to handle guns, in the school. I think we're asking too much of you. And I want to respect you for the profession that you are in. I want you to be paid well for what you do. And I want to bring that respectability back to the profession. So with me, I salute all of you educators and the support staff, from the custodial staff right on up to the principals and the school superintendents. Bravo! You've done an excellent job during some very difficult times. And I want to see what we can do to help you do it even better.
So thank you for shouting out and giving thanks and gratitude to our educators, because this particular time is a really challenging one for our school workers. And like you said, from our support staff, our ESPs, to our classroom teachers, our specialist teachers, our school librarians, all the way up to our school administrators and superintendents. Everybody is working really hard to make sure that not only we keep our educators and our students safe, but that we also give them a robust education in this virtual model as we're trying to keep people safe. So your gratitude and thanks goes a long way. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for sharing your plan on how you plan to vote. So I want to let everybody know, what is your voting plan? You heard Yvonne's voting plan. She said she's going to go down early vote to her favorite precinct. And she's going to go visit some other ones to make sure that other constituents in North Carolina get a chance to make sure that they cast their vote. But what is your voting plan? You can share your voting plan in the comments. But whatever route you choose, we want you to know all of your choices so that you can cast your vote and use your voice in this election. So remember, you can vote by mail. North Carolina is the first state in the nation to vote by mail. Ballots have dropped already. And so North Carolina is the first in a whole lot of stuff, but we're going to be the first to vote in the North Carolina elections. You can early vote with your mask and you can bring your own pen, or you can vote on election day with a mask and bringing your own pen. And today, our NCAEVotes2020.org is live, so you can go there to see all of the pro-public education endorsements before you cast your vote. And so you can find out all of our candidates, including Representative Holley, on our NCAEVotes2020.org website. So please make sure that you go and do that. All right, so we are pretty much out of time. But I want to first give my huge thank yous to Yvonne Lewis Holley for her time today and for joining us in this new format, because this is not a Zoom, y'all. This is not a Zoom. This is something totally different, as you can see from our fancy backdrop and our nice little add-ons here. So I am super glad that she was able to make time out of her schedule to talk to us as educators. And I want to thank you as well for tuning in. So I want you to keep an eye out for more upcoming episodes of Tuesdays with Tamika. We are going to be slated every Tuesday for the next month and the next month in October. And so I can't wait for you to see who our next guests are going to be. I hope that you made it through the Tuesday after Labor Day, which is hard. Short weeks are always so much harder than a full 5-day week. And I hope your Tuesday went well. And I will see you all soon. Remember, if you have questions or if there's something that you want to see on Tuesdays with Tamika, you can email us at tuesdayswithtamika@ncae.org. And in the comments, you can also check out Yvonne's website, where you can find all information about her campaign, and anything else that you would like to know about her, so you can get involved with her campaign as well. And so thank you, Representative Holley, for being on. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.